Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. A few videos ago I redesigned the three main characters in my currently untitled comic, and today I'm back with more redesigns. I will link the first video in the description and I recommend checking that one out if you haven't already. You may remember that the first OCs were originally part of a sci-fi analog horror which I completely overhauled, where a sentient alien planet was invading Earth to consume the planet for energy. Parts of the planet landed on Earth in the form of parasites, infecting and controlling people to build a portal to let the planet in by infiltrating a space center in Washington. The American Ministry of Planetary Exploration, or AMP for short. But let it be known, the aliens weren't the only villains here. First of all, they weren't working in a scattered group, they had a leader. And second of all, they weren't infiltrating AMP on their own. There was help coming from the inside. So, who were the nefarious individuals at the supposed top of this food chain? Well, it's a small world, and it all linked back to one very prestigious family. Now, AMP was headed by a father-son duo, Albert Goodman, who is newly retired, and his son Ernest, who he left the company to. Being the ministry's founder, Albert was very precious about the legacy he had created in the town and expected his son to carry on the company in a way that would bring honor to the family. The problem was that Ernest was young and very irresponsible. He'd grown up very lavishly, living off the family's newly acquired fortune. Never having been forced to do much of anything, he turned to excessive partying and became a user. None of that changed when he became the new CEO either. Ernest was under immense pressure to keep AMP afloat, and was failing pretty miserably as a manager. The aliens took advantage of his predicament and preyed on his destructive lifestyle, coming to him and marketing the parasites as a new substance that would be very popular at his parties, and offering the company financial help as well, or investments. Ernest accepted because his prefrontal cortex was not developed, and because he was desperate and the offer seemed unusually generous. From there, it was only a matter of time before the substance was being distributed at Ernest's parties, which, yes, were frequented by AMP employees. People started being controlled, and the aliens were easily able to infiltrate the space center and start secretly working on their portal. There's something I'm missing here, though. Remember how I said the parasite-controlled people had a leader? This alien was responsible for heading the deal with Ernest, as well as coordinating all the portal-building preparations. She had stronger powers than the others, having a very strong telepathic connection and being easy to speak through the colony's hive mind. She was a tall, masked, mysterious figure known only as the Apostle. As for her connection to the Goodman family, well, I can't spoil everything yet, can I? So, as you can see, these three characters were the additional villains of the old story. Well, Albert less so, but still. You'll see as we go through the redesigns that overall their roles have remained quite similar, just implemented into an entirely new world. Before we begin, please remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss future uploads just like this one. Now, without further ado, let's get into the character designs.
Nice ride.
Mustang. Ross 429. She is 70.
69.
Now, I already talked about Ernest's old personality, so I won't be redundant in talking about that, but we gotta talk about his old design for sure. I actually made Ernest before Albert, so he was originally a lot older. I had wanted him to be very off-putting and strange, so I guess I gave him buccal fat removal apparently. I cannot remember exactly why I had him canonically have such a bunch of cosmetic procedures. I think he had an obsession with looking young. I swear I wrote a short story about his obsession with vanity like 2 years ago, but it was on paper. I have no idea where that paper is, so I guess we'll never know exactly why, but he was quite vain. When I eventually met Albert when I was trying to overhaul this story the first time, I aged Ernest down to his early 20s, but honestly he looked like a teenager. I was very directionless with his outfit, so he always wore this jersey and shorts combo and a bunch of jewelry. The vibe is there for sure, I just needed to hone in his look a bit for his redesign. It was during that initial revamp that I decided on his obsession with partying and being overall irresponsible and reckless. Ernest was very out of place in the small town he lived in. I think he was always very bored and overwhelmed with the responsibility of running a company he didn't really care about, and turned to unhealthy coping mechanisms as a form of escapism. He was basically always high or drunk or hungover, moping about in his room, feeling generally awful and miserable. His role in the story was to be at odds with his father and to provide some kind of assistance during the climax of the story in preventing the world from being destroyed. I never got quite that far in deciding what he would do, unfortunately. Now let's talk about Ernest's new and improved overhaul. First off, he always looked a lot like his dad, but not at all like his mom, because I created her after the first two, technically. So I changed his skin tone and also his natural hair color to match hers a bit better. You'll see at some point that his hair is dyed blonde, but his dark roots are showing through. I also changed his outfit a lot because I thought the old one was just a bit too juvenile. He's still in his early 20s, which is young, but I think he looks more his age now with this fit. One thing I kept, which I always liked, are his many piercings and metal accessories. I think they give him a bit more personality. New Ernest has the same love of partying as before, but a little more pared back. He's definitely not an addict anymore. Now, in the new edition of my story, Ernest is no longer the guy in charge. I did away with the American Ministry of Planetary Exploration, as you know, if you saw the previous video. I'd actually love to make a whole video dedicated to my new universe, since it would take a very long time to explain in depth here, but I'll give you a quick rundown once again. Once upon a time, in the future, there is a massive overthrowing of not just the government, but also the general power structure, which is very oppressive and corporation heavy. 25 years later is where the story really takes place, after the new authoritarian regime has been implemented and had time to develop. Everything seems awesome until a lot of people start going missing, which is especially unusual because no one is supposed to be able to go missing, but that's an explanation for another video. As for why people are missing, not that I want to say too much because I'm going to be talking a lot about it in my next video or the one after. In any case, it'll be soon, but there's a cult emerging. A very nasty cult. You'll see. All that to say, Albert, Ernest's dad, is the prime minister, and Ernest kind of just hangs around. He's not really in the running to be the next leader, at least for now, because Albert's only 50-something and hasn't figured out what's going to happen when he's gone in a long time. So, for now, Ernest spends a lot of his time DJing, studying a myriad of subjects, and spending nights out on the town.
It's not what you did, son, that angers me so. It's who you did it to.
There's not much to say about Albert in the old lore because he looked very similar, and his only personality traits were that he was genuinely evil and was a horrifically bad father. So moving on. In this new story, the young Albert Goodman was always more observant than his peers, and was rightfully angered by how the general public was being treated by those more powerful. It was frustrating and lonely being the only person who seemed to notice how wrong it all was, or at least being the only person who felt like it could be better. As much as he was full of rage towards his fellow men, he also pitied them for not seeing how the world could be better. He began channeling his rage into thinking about what he might do to fix the world, but never had a concrete plan until he met Glattis, a woman who felt exactly the same way, whom he would eventually marry. She was much further along in devising a plan, and so the two put their skulls together and became the faces of the revolution, dubbing themselves and their slowly collected members the Party for Peace. When it came, the revolution was arduous and bloody, but ultimately they were successful. The party then spent many years rebuilding their city and the rest of the country from the ground up, developing it into the wonderful place it became in the story's present times. Albert is very beloved by the public, of course, always taking the time to show up at cultural events, speak at schools, etc. Behind closed doors, however, he's constantly exhausted, naturally, and feels the constant weight of running a country and kind of just having to throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. He had to figure it all out from nothing since he never had a formal education or studied politics until the country got back on its feet and he could have time to self-study. He feels like a tiny fish in a massive pond on the global scale since, compared to much of the world's superpower countries which are still under technological oppressive rule, he's really just some guy with his little shut-out country where everyone reads books and can afford to eat. Don't feel too bad for him though. He might have more support if he hadn't done some horrible, backstabbing, manipulative things.
Revenge for 17 years ago, for one thing. If not for him, our dream would have come true.
Indeed, Glattis Goodman was originally the Apostle. Her being Ernest's mom was a retcon, if you can call it that, since I had already established her as a character and her whole plotline kind of thing before I made that decision. It really complicated a lot, so the story refresh was a great opportunity to straighten that out. The Apostle was, like I explained, a much more advanced alien parasite controlling the mind of Glattis. I never 100% decided on it, but I had had the idea that Albert was the one who infected her because, well, he was evil. That's about it. But now in this story, there's not aliens, so what's her deal? There's no Apostle anymore. Well, at least not in name. Glattis had always had an activist spirit, and was highly observant and aware of the injustice in the world. She could never really say anything about it, though, mostly because nobody would listen. She too became enraged by everybody's complacency in their own misery, and thought endlessly about what she was going to do to fix it. Why not fight fire with fire, if your opposition was a candle and you were a burning forest? The only issue was that, for now, the roles were reversed. That is, until she met Albert. She began expressing her ideas about what the future could be like to him. He was fully on board with everything she had to say, and they worked together to make her dream a reality. They headed the revolution together, and came to be the leaders of the country as a pair, or so she thought. What really happened was that, when they came into power, Albert took all of the glory for himself, discrediting Glattis's contributions to the restructuring. Betrayed and livid, Glattis felt she could do nothing for the time being. Leaving now would jeopardize the already shaky grasp the party had on the country. So she stayed, but never stopped keeping tabs on how her home was being run. Some years later, she finally left in the middle of the night, never to be seen again as the Glattis everyone knew. Glattis secretly roamed the streets, finding the cracks in the world she had imagined that Albert had recreated in his own image. People were still suffering, not physically, but emotionally. Life had been very hard before the uprising, and that kind of trauma wasn't so easily forgotten by everybody. Everything they'd done still wasn't enough. During her time alone, lurking in the dark corners of the city, she reached an epiphany. It wasn't just the regime from before that had been the problem. It was civilization itself. Her idea of how to save humanity had been completely wrong all along. The control, the regimentation of it all was the issue. Humans were nothing more than animals, after all. She realized at last her true calling. She needed to raze the city to the ground, cut away all its modern comforts. She had to kill humanity. She'd reformed society once before. How hard could it be to do it again? There they are! That means all 6 main characters in my story are officially redesigned now, yay! There will be minor characters who are important-ish, and background characters of course, but these are the big fish, the big leagues, what have you. Let me know who you like the most down below in the comments, and once again be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!